Going to open this meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. This is a meeting of the Acushnet Board of Selectmen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda that's been previously distributed?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So first item on the agenda is an old business item. Is the soil board permit discussion with regard to PJ Keating, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit. The Exhibit A has been distributed. Everyone's had a chance to review it. So just going back in the process, the soil committee, is sort of the front face of the town when dealing with PJ Keating on their soil removal permit, and has done a lot of work with regard to that permit, particularly in recent years, to make that permit more robust than it's ever been in the past, and forwarded the permit to the Board of Selectmen. We are the ultimate approval authority over that permit. That permit was forwarded to us. I don't want to guess a date, but I think that, the consensus of the group was that, we felt, particularly given what we've been hearing about PJ Keating's operations in recent years and in recent public hearings, that we wanted to add more to the soil removal permit. So there was a document titled an Exhibit A to the soil removal permit that was generated, that's been circulated. I know you both added provisions to it. The document went back to town council to just confirm that everything that we were proposing for that permit was valid. And, I'd really like to see us vote the renewal of their soil removal permit with this Exhibit A attached. Any comments on anything in the document? I'd like to read the document for the record, but any comments before I start that?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think the soil board did a good job on their end of it, and I'd like to compliment you and your work on providing the Board of Selectmen with this document. As I told you in the past, most of the things that you were concerned with and you had already documented are already there. So thank you very much for your additions to the soil board permit, and Mr. DeRoche as well.
And I will say the soil board is a much better board than it has been historically, with the addition of Chief Gallagher. Merrill Lee's now on the soil board. Our building agent, Jim Merritt's now on the soil board, and it's a much better group than it was before. Mr. Correa's done some outstanding work with regard to the soil permit, but I think there's some additional things we wanted. So let me read through this a little bit and be patient. This shouldn't take long, but I think it's important we read this into the record so that the residents that don't see this necessarily know what this is. So this is Exhibit A to the soil removal permit between the town of Acushnet and PJ Keating. The following are additional terms and conditions relative to the soil removal permit. Keating shall always assure that the town has on file a current and detailed reclamation decommissioning plan for the Keating facility, including a budget for said plan backed by a bond or such other financial assurance mechanism as shall be acceptable to the town. Earlier today, I added the word facility used throughout this Exhibit A is intended to mean all operations conducted by PJ Keating at 72 South Main Street, Acushnet, Mass., including all quarry and asphalt production operations. Keating shall provide the town with a baseline sound study and a fugitive dust control plan. Keating shall update both on an annual basis. Hours of operation of the Keating facility shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Saturday. Keating shall always operate with the overriding goal to minimize the environmental impacts of their operations on neighboring residences and to contain said operations to within the Keating property line. And these are some sub-bullets. Keating shall install sound and visual barriers as necessary. Keating shall have a process in place to assure that all trucks entering or leaving the facility have covered loads. Keating shall assure that all trucks entering or leaving the facility have state legal exhaust systems. Keating shall assure that all trucks entering or leaving the facility receive instruction that they should not be using air brakes on local roads. Keating shall install and maintain a primary in-ground grate system at the entrance exit area located within the facility to drain to the detention pond on the property. Keating shall purchase and use a vacuum sweep machine to clean the roadways surrounding the facility on a regular and as-needed basis. Keating shall purchase and use a fog or misting cannon system to control dust from the materials stockpiled on site and general quarry operations. Keating shall purchase and maintain a Stanton tire and wheel wash system or similar equipment. Keating shall maintain material stockpile heights at an appropriate level to minimize the impact on the surrounding neighborhood and prevent dust that travels beyond the property line. Keating shall reduce production output as needed to minimize the environmental impact on the surrounding neighborhoods. New bullet point. Keating shall obtain and maintain a valid NPDES permit from the Environmental Protection Agency and/or the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection for any activity subject to the Federal Clean Water Act as amended, 33 U.S.C. subsection 1251 et sec, and the Massachusetts Clean Waters Act as amended, General Law, Chapter 21, subsection 26 to 53. Keating to provide monthly scalehouse information on trucks leaving the facility to the town so the town can understand the impact on local roadways. Keating to provide copies of all licenses and permits required to operate the quarry and asphalt plant. Keating to provide the town with labor and materials to complete 3 miles of road repairs on an annual basis. And that is the end of Exhibit A. Comments on anything in that exhibit?
I don't, Mr. Chairman. I think it's a good start.
Mr. DeRoche?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think this gives us the opportunity to enforce compliance to the quarry. It seems like over the past time they've been operating, and the town has not been enforcing the conditions that were granted for previous soil board permits, and we do have a lot of power, I guess I could say. The select board has a lot of power to hold Keating responsible for the health and well-being of the town. It states right in the soil removal permit that no permit for removal shall be granted unless the Board of Selectmen finds that such removal, subject to the conditions imposed by the permit, which we have done now, will not be contrary to the best interests of the town, and no removal operation subsequently conducted under such permit shall continue if contrary to such conditions. So I think by what we're doing tonight, we're really enforcing compliance that PJ Keating is going to have to follow to continue to have a soil removal permit.
Agreed. I'll point out also the chief raised a point with one of the issues on the Exhibit A. I just want to talk about, as I read it, I went by it, but the comment was with regarding the street sweeper, that is, it's not the intent that the street sweeper necessarily stop at the Acushnet town line, that the intent is that, PJ Keating, to the extent that they're dragging materials onto local roadways, that it's their responsibility to maintain those, the condition of those roadways and to remove soil and other debris from those roadways, whether those roadways are in Acushnet or even down Alden Road into Fairhaven. So, the way it's written, it talks about roadways surrounding the facility. So I think that's broad enough to cover any roadways that are impacted. Chief, we can be more specific if you think we need to be, but I don't think what it says hurts us. But if you've got a suggested edit, we'd appreciate your sharing it.
No, Mr. Chairman, I think you summarized it perfectly. The meeting that we attended in Fairhaven sorry about that. That we attended in Fairhaven, okay. That was the concerns raised to you and Selectman DeRoche and others that were there. from the residents of the north end of Haven that, you know, the trucks, both asphalt and from the quarry, travel down Main Street often, Alden Road often. They also travel down Tarkland Hill Road into New Bedford onto Acushnet Avenue.
Everywhere.
So, you know, if the idea is to hold them responsible for whatever spills out of the trucks in transport, then the sweeper should be in the scope of the sweeping should be enlarged from what it traditionally has been. That was the only point I wanted to make.
Thank you, Chief. Other comments before I read a motion? Okay, I'm going to read. This is the motion that was provided by Town Council. I had it. I just had it right in front of me. Hold on. Nope. Here we go. I move that the board grant PJ Keating's application for an earth removal permit pursuant to Article 6 of the Acushnet General Bylaws for the property located at 72 Main Street. I further move that the board adopt the following terms and conditions for said earth removal permit. 1, PJ Keating Co., the petitioner, is the owner of the property located at 72 Main Street, Acushnet, Massachusetts, the property. 2, the petitioner operates on the property a quarry from which it mines crushed stone and gravel, conducts sand, gravel, and stone processing, and operates a plant that produces hot mix asphalt. 3, the petitioner has applied for an earth removal permit pursuant to Article 6 of the Acushnet General Bylaws for the purpose of removal of earth from the property. 4, the board finds that such earth removal from the property, subject to the conditions imposed by this permit, will not be contrary to the best interests of the town. 5, the board conditions this permit with the terms and conditions found in the attached Exhibit A. 6, no removal operations subsequently conducted under this permit, as conditioned by the terms and conditions in the attached Exhibit A, shall continue if contrary to the best interests of the town. And finally, 7, pursuant to Article 6, Section 3D of the Acushnet General Bylaws, this permit shall automatically expire upon the completion of the earth removal project for which it was issued, or at December 31st, 2020, or upon revocation for cause by the Board of Selectmen, whichever shall occur first. That would be the motion. And I'll make the motion for simplicity. Can I get a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that is voted. Okay, back to our agenda. Under new business, we've got 2 items. We've got sort of a shuffle, for lack of a better word, in the treasurer collector's office. And the first 2 items under new business are related to that. Ms. Hebert, why don't you lead this discussion, please?
Sure. Bye, Chief.
Did you have? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Bye, Chief.
Bye, Chief.
Mr. Chair, as you said, we're rearranging positions. The 2 employees who currently work in the office, essentially we'll be looking to switch positions because one is clerical. We do have an MOU. It's already been approved by the AFSCME Clerical Union. Essentially, it'd be moving the employee back to her current status as senior clerk at the same rate she was getting paid before she was promoted to the assistant treasurer collector. That's item number 1. And item number 2 would be to appoint the current clerk as the new assistant treasurer collector. And you would have to set, she's already under the wage and classification as grade 9. So you would have to just choose what step you would want to put her on. When I talked to you earlier, I suggested step 1 since she's new. And so that would be your vote if you choose to appoint her, and then pick a step for the grade on the wage and classification. Discussion, gentlemen, about do we need 2 votes or just 1? We need 2 votes, right? You need 2 votes. Okay. All right, let me get the agenda back in front of me then. All right, hold on. So could I get first motion to, on behalf of the town, for the Board of Selectmen, sign the memorandum of understanding between the town and AFSCME Union Local 851 regarding the
current assistant treasurer collector and moving the current assistant treasurer collector back into her previous position as a senior clerk in the treasurer collector's office.
So moved.
Mr. Gasper, second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, and for the record, it's step 5 in the union contract, the ASME contract, and I've already signed that memorandum of understanding for Ms. Hebert, so you two gentlemen can just sign this. I've already signed that memorandum.
I will be by tomorrow morning, Ms. Hebert.
I left my signature on it already.
I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Second would be a motion with regard to, appointing the employee that currently holds, she's got the title of senior clerk or clerk presently?
She's a clerk.
She's a clerk presently, okay. So taking the individual that is presently the clerk and moving that individual into the title of assistant treasurer collector. And both of these changes are effective July 1st, 21, beginning with our new fiscal year. So can I get a motion to promote that individual to the assistant treasurer collective position as a grade 9, step 1 previously discussed?
So moved.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Gross, second. Further discussion? Only additional comment would be, we're moving through this quickly, but just so the people watching at home know, we've all had extensive discussions about this with Ms. Hebert. This is, we're supporting what she's recommended to each of us. And so it's a situation we're all very aware of. And we've each spoken with Ms. Hebert about it and understand what's happening. So, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 3 under new business, fiscal year 21 cable stipend. Ms. Hebert, did you want to lead us in this discussion?
Sure. So this is on here, and I think it's the start of a conversation in general about the cable and how the cable committee is structured. As of right now, we have a cable advisory committee. My understanding is that the advisory committee is only in place while we're finishing our negotiation for the Comcast permit. And once that permit is signed, the committee dissolves. I think we did have a cable committee in the past that was structured, and that kind of dissolved a few years back. So without that kind of structure in place, we've had a lot of people looking to our Chief Information Technology Director, Chris Oliver, for guidance. Whenever we've had issues, he's been the point person. And during his contract negotiations, it came up that whether there could be a potential for a small stipend for Mr. Oliver from cable, as he's somewhat directing everything for the cable operations right now. I think in general, this is a good topic for the selectmen to discuss tonight and maybe in the future. Again, looking to get some structure back to that committee so that when there are issues, we constantly have new equipment that we're looking to purchase, and then issues with the equipment, as we all know, where we had a trouble going live a few weeks back, and we're working to fix that now. Everything with cable, we need a point person, and I think that's something that the selectmen should take up. But tonight on the agenda is the stipend.
Gentlemen, comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table this issue at this time so we can discuss in the future. I know we're having, it's a little premature here, but I know you're not going to be here after tonight.
Yep.
We could discuss this with the new selectmen and to truly develop a new structure for the cable operations. It seems like we've had some pieces in place now that are changing, and this seems like it presents a good time to start anew with a new select board member coming in and develop this over the next couple of months, and then have the understanding so we can go forward with this.
Yep. Second the motion, Mr. Gaspar.
Yeah, I would. I agree. I agree with Mr. DeRoche. I think that, we've talked about this, Mr. Chairman, in the past. We just never really got time to discuss it in detail as a board. And I know Nick's been in that room, and he just told me today that they're upgrading some equipment, and there's some good news with some wiring from this building to the Parting Ways building. So he's very familiar with some of the structure of the equipment and stuff like that as it's being put in place. So yeah, I would like to have an opportunity with the board in the future to discuss some kind of some kind of pecking order and whether or not we need anybody. And I would like to say to Mr. Oliver, thank you very much for doing what he's done over the past with the Zoom meetings and setting up the board. I figured that might have been done by Nick in the cable room because he was already here, but Mr. Oliver stepped up and just took it over. When I made a recommendation to him before COVID-19 that Zoom was offering educational people the opportunity to use their platform, and then we were able to use it for the Board of Selectmen meeting and other meetings. So I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Mr. Oliver for his time and his effort in doing so.
All right, so I agree that this is something that it's probably you need to put some thought into, and agreed it should be deferred. I mean, the only general comment I will make is, we've sort of thought about this for a long time as to how we should restructure the cable committee, and I know there was a vote taken to appoint a body. I would my recollection is that most of the people on the current cable committee are also employees of the cable committee, for lack of a better term. And my only suggestion would be, and I'm not going to be here to implement it, but my only suggestion would be that the cable committee, you need to bring in more diversity into that group, and not just the folks that are necessarily pulling a paycheck from it. And that's not intended as a slight to anybody on the, that works for the town in that capacity, but I think you need some outside interests as well. So motion to table in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Department of Public Works, we've got a couple. Is Mr. Menard joining us or no? Ms. Hebert, you're leading this, or?
No, I'll lead it. So the first one is the Mendel Road drainage work. We had this on our previous agenda. We talked to Mr. Menard about it. We had an amount that he had projected for the drainage work. It was about $9,000. Thereafter, he realized that amount did not include police details. And so before he started the project, he wanted to make sure the board was okay with that amount. His projection is around $6,000 for police details. I think it's about 15 days worth of work. So again, before he starts any of that work, he wanted to get approval from the Board of Selectmen for that additional cost.
Does he have a budget line item for that?
Yeah. Well, as Mr. Casper knows,
Yeah, it's zero. I'll say it.
Yeah.
It's something that was taken out of the budget completely, Mr. Cabral. There's always been a line item. He reduced the road materials down pretty significantly when we asked for reductions in budgets. For some reason, he zeroed out the police details. So I raised the question on how we plan on doing any road work without police details. I think $6,000 is a lot of money for that area of the town where it's, not a high traffic area. I guess if that's what he's calculated, I know that it's the detail rate somewhere around $50 an hour. So $400 a day, it's $2,000 a week. It's pretty significant cost to block off and, the direct traffic, but I don't think that we really have an option. And I think that, it warrants some discussion in the future about the DPW's budget and how we move forward with that this year. That'll be for an upcoming meeting, I would assume.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. DeRoche.
Is, in lieu of detail, is it correct to say our only other option is to close Mendel Road during the hours of construction? I mean, is that the
That's
process?
Ms. Hebert had suggested that is a possibility. That is an option.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that it's a great option, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Or closed to local traffic only, or?
I think, Mr. Chairman, if I could comment.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
That stretch of road, I told you guys in the last meeting that we made that motion to approve from the high tension lines up to Garrison Lane, which is roughly, I got some paperwork here from Mr. Menard. It states that it's roughly 700 feet of road work. It's a quarter of a mile. I measured it out. I also did it on Google Earth to do driving directions to make sure I'm right. So it's roughly a quarter of a mile. I got some paperwork that he submitted here from Ms. Hebert on that project with the details, minus the police details. I guess it's a conversation if the board's uncomfortable approving $6,000 in police details for a few weeks. He's basically given himself 3 weeks time to do this project. I'm not going to question Dan's ability to do it in 3 weeks or less. But I would say that, there's not a lot of houses in that stretch of mile. It's a very good possibility we could block the road off from the high tension lines and not disrupt too many residents. So there is an option that we could discuss with Mr. Menard. Is that something we could do? Blocking off the road, saying road closed, and then people come in from the other way. And it might be a little difficult with there's probably, I don't know, half dozen residents that are going to be impacted by road closure. And obviously they'd have to be allowed to go through, and DPW could accommodate that because we're only working on one side of the road. So yes, it would work. Would it provide a little inconvenience? Maybe, unless we send a memo out to those residents that would be impacted by road closure. Again, it would probably be a dozen residents. We could do that ahead of time and seeing what kind of feedback we get and how we could do it. So if you don't want to approve the detail work, that's fine. We can bring them in and have that discussion and talk to them about it. Or if you want to just make a motion to approve the $6,000 and we could still have that conversation, see if there's an alternative route. We could do that as well, Mr. Chairman. We agreed to do the project. Now we're stuck
to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're stuck with a $6,000 bill. So I'm all right either way. As much as I don't like it, we agreed to do the work and solve that drainage problem in that quarter mile stretch. For now, we could surely approve the $6,000, and then, either I can have a conversation, or Miss Hebert and I can have a conversation with Mr. Menard and see what the repercussions would be to just closing off the road and not expend the $6,000 out of his road budget line item.
Mr. DeRosa, any comments or?
No, I can understand Mr. Gaspar's comments. I look at that area. You do have access from Perry Hill Road to the residents who live on that side of Mendel Road. You do have, on the other side of the project, you have access from Mattapoisett Road and Hathaway Road. So if approving, if we approve it tonight, that gives the money availability, doesn't necessarily, I do agree, but I'd like to just continue this. I'm okay with approving the money. And if we could have this discussion and see if we could, we don't have to spend the money, I guess is what I'm saying. We can approve it and have a discussion with Mr. Menard and then make our final decision.
I have two comments from my perspective. First comment is we agreed the project was important enough to do it. We should do it. It needs to be done. So I think we need to find a way to do a project. Second, a comment I may not have made before, but I'll make it now. I guess I don't understand why we need to pay $50 an hour for somebody to stand there to direct cars around the construction site on a street that's not very heavily traveled. And as I travel around the world and around the world, I don't go anywhere. But as I travel around New England, let's say that around New England, I don't go anywhere. But around New England, you go into other states and they have people with flags directing, very capably directing traffic around construction sites. I suspect that costs significantly less than $50 an hour. And I know it's a Massachusetts thing, and I know that it's, we probably have to do it. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying, all right, we're doubling the cost of this project. The burden of that cost is on the residents of this community, and it just feels there should be a better way besides, putting a police officer there at $50 an hour. But, I'm not going to change. I'm not the person that's going to be able to change that, but I can say what I think. But
Mr. Chairman.
Just last point. I think we should do the project, and figure out the best way to do it, whatever that is. Mr. Gasper.
It's really not a state of Massachusetts thing. It's more of it's a municipality thing across the Commonwealth. Everybody has a different preference, and in the contract, which would be the police department's contract, it states that no flagmen will be allowed. It will be done by police officers. So that's something that we could look at in the future when we're negotiating a police contract. But it doesn't state anywhere that we don't have the right. The Board of Selectmen don't have the right to close the road. So that's an option for us. So we're back to square
I thought
one.
it was Massachusetts mandated that if we were doing that, we needed police officers.
No,
I don't know why I believe that to be true.
There's towns in their contracts where they're allowed flagmen.
Okay. All right. Well, for the person who gets that contract next, good luck with that, guys. and Ms. Hebert, good luck with that. All right. So what's an appropriate motion here that we, that we allocate? How about a motion we allocate an additional $6,000 from a to be determined source to support that project, but with the guidance that, to the extent we can avoid that expenditure, that would be preferred.
So moved.
I feel like a motion. Second, Mr. DeRose, second on that.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. I second that. Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Skate ramp surplus property, and I've got a motion. I guess at some point, I remember this. This was a big deal a bunch of years ago. We had some skate ramps donated to the town. Oh, weren't they? They were at the bottom of, was that Nye Lane or?
Yeah, it was right
Nye Lane and Middle Road.
It was right where Rougeau's plumbing is, Roger.
Yes. And then it was removed when that property was developed.
Yeah, well, it was kind of dismantled in a sense because it was getting trashed over there by some individuals.
So we've got what's left of that facility. It's been in storage at the DPW yard, and we want to dispose of it because we're not using it. It's taking up space. Apparently, somebody wants it, Ms. Hebert. Is that true?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
Does somebody want the ramps, or are we just gonna? Yeah, somebody wants them. Okay. So I've got a resolution to declare them surplus property. Do I need to read this?
Yes, you do.
Okay, then I will read it. I've got a resolution to declare items as surplus property, whereas the town of Acushnet has authority to declare items as surplus that are no longer deemed necessary or adequate to properly perform the duties of government as prescribed by law. And whereas the town of Acushnet Department of Public Works requests approval from the Board of Selectmen to declare the attached list of items as surplus property and properly dispose of them. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen of the town of Acushnet meeting regular session this 23rd day of June 2020 that this board hereby approves the disposal of the attached list of surplus property. And the attached list shows skate ramps, 5 of them, 19 years old. The condition is W.
Worthless.
Worthless. Okay, worthless. And what are we doing with them, Ms. Hebert?
The company will be taking them. So that's why we're deeming them worthless. They have no value. So we're essentially donating them to this company.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion on that resolution, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Town Administrator's report about public hearings.
Yeah, I just have a couple different public hearings that were sent out for authorization from the Selectmen. The Zoning Board of Appeals had sent out their list. I don't know if everyone had a chance to read through. They had 2 different meetings. The first one is for July 7th. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cases. Do you want me to go through them in detail or?
I don't think that's necessary unless anyone, if gentlemen, you both have the list. Is there anything you see there that you object to having a hearing for? I think we try to return to business as usual.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Zoning Board of Appeals request to have their meeting on February 18th.
Not February 18th.
I'm sorry, July 7th, 2020. That's minutes to be approved. So they have two different meetings scheduled. I just have, when Ms. Heber talks about their second meeting, I have a comment to make. Make a motion to approve the zoning board's request for the July 7, 2020 meeting at 6:30 PM, public hearings.
So
Second
moved.
that, Mr. DeRoche.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so there's a meeting scheduled that let me see, July 28th.
Yeah, July 28th.
All right,
All
so
right, that's
you
for the,
object to the,
That's for the gas station, I believe. Tony,
It's
right.
yeah, for the convenience store, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
yep. So that's the one we just approved,
No,
No, we approved
No.
the 7th. Or
the 7th. All right, let's talk about July 28th.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gaspar.
It was brought to my attention that the zoning board was going to be meeting on this, on the service station for some special permits slash variances. And I'm a little confused that the plan hasn't even been presented to the planning board as far as I've been made aware of. So I don't understand why they would go in front of zoning board of appeals until they go in front of the planning board, have a public hearing on the planning board aspects and what it is. The planning board, I guess, would then identify the issues that's outside of their purview to allow, and then have to be going in front of zoning board of appeals for those special permit and or variance. I'm just a little confused at why they go into ZBA before they ended up in front of planning board when they've never gone in front of planning board.
Ms. Hebert, any information on that?
Yeah, well, we're still working through, working with Henry. I had a conversation today with Henry, Jim, and town council, because we're looking through the bylaws just to confirm that site plan review has been prompted by this project. So I'll keep you updated when we get a resolution from town council on that. But from my understanding, the special permit or the site plan review, there's no particular order that you need to have them in, just as long as you have them both at some point when it's necessary. So I think soon we'll be hearing that planning board will be looking to meet on this too.
So we wouldn't normally be approving their hearings. The only reason we're weighing in on this is the COVID-19 situation. So,
yeah, I'm not against approving it, Roger. I'm just a little concerned that you would think that what I hate to see is an applicant paid $350 to go in front of zoning board of appeals, present their case, what they're led to believe may be one or two issues, as far as what I understand is a few issues. And then they go in front of planning board and more issues arise where it requires planning, zoning board approval. And then you're making the applicant spend more money when that's what wasn't told to them up front on the issue. So I think that it's kind of, the tail wagging the dog. I think that you should go and get everything well vetted out with the planning board and say, okay, this is what the planning board and the building commissioner recognize as variances and or special permits from according to your plans. That need to go in front of zoning board of appeals and well vetted so that they understand. Then the applicant can say, okay, and now I'll pay my $350 and put on the application all the things that I need to be going in front and saying, oh, we forgot that.
Yeah.
I just don't like the way, I think there's a lot of things that this development needs to be vetted. I think that planning board, it starts with planning board. I think it's got to come in front of the board of selectmen for a couple of different issues, land use, again, because if they plan on putting fuel storage tanks there, land use permit, and liquor license if they plan on getting a beer and wine license. So, I don't know. I don't have a problem with letting them go. I'm raising the red flag for the applicant, saying maybe it'd be a better idea that it goes in front of planning board. Everything is vetted there with Jim Merritt, the planning board, say this is all the things, the criteria that you're going to need to go to ZBA with, instead of, these are the things that we can think of right now, but when we get in front of planning and we look at your plans, that may trigger other things that you need to go in front of ZBA. I don't like the process of what I'm saying. I think it's kind of a little bit backwards is all I'm saying.
Mr. DeRoche, any comments?
Yeah, do they need to grant, I'm unfamiliar, I can't seem to find the whatever, for the 28th meeting. But my point being is, are they asking for a variance or rezoning of the residential property that they bought to commercial? Do you know if that's one of the things they're looking for from the ZBA?
I've got it here. There's not a lot of detail here.
Well, my understanding is that the zoning board of appeals has to issue a special permit because there are a few clauses in the bylaw that were triggered. And I think the one that triggered this was the property is going to be over 3,000 square feet.
That's correct.
So that's what triggers the special permit that the zoning board of appeals is looking at.
That's one of them on their application.
Yeah.
So there's a few different things, Roger, that's all I'm saying is I don't know. I just look at this and it's a big project. I think that it really should be going in front of planning board and vetted with planning board, building commissioner after planning board makes recommendations. They're allowed flexibility in their rules and regulations to provide waivers, what is done, what isn't done, what's left to do now, and that requires ZBA review. And then they go to ZBA. So look, I mean, if we want to approve the meeting, you're right, we normally wouldn't do it. It's just giving us an opportunity to talk about the process and maybe making it a little more clarity to the process. And I'm just concerned that the applicant's going to be led down a trail where they have to pay $350 for an application, and perhaps they got to go back again. And
the comment I'd make is I'm aware of this developer. I think they've been through this process a few times. I suspect they've looked at our bylaws. They know what doesn't fit, and they want to move all the pieces at once. And and given this project, I'm looking forward to this project. I think this is, that's been a sore spot in this town for years. I'm really looking forward to seeing that site developed with this project. But I suspect that they're trying to develop, that they're trying to check all the boxes on multiple sheets of paper at the same time, and acknowledge they're taking the chance. But given what this project is, that $350 is a rounding error. So I suspect that they're prepared to pay that 2 or 3 times or 4 times over if they have to. If they have to keep going back, I don't see that as being material. But the straight line approach would be planning board. Let planning board tell you what you don't comply with. Then you go to the zoning board of appeals and say, planning board says this doesn't work. Zoning board, will you approve it anyway? I think they're saying, we know what we don't comply with. Let's go to the zoning board and the planning board at the same time and keep all the pieces moving. So I don't object to that strategy. It's at their risk, not the town's.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, for clarity, I neither have any problems with it. I'm just a little concerned about the way we, the town, are taking the project. And that's fine. Look, you know what? I understand that this particular client has the money to do it. If this was a normal resident, they would probably be a little PO'd if they had to spend $350, go back, spend another $350 because we, the town, didn't have our stuff together. So I'm just, I'm throwing out a little concern. I'm okay with the public hearing. I really am. But I just want to make everybody aware that I am concerned about the process, that I think the process should be aligned a little bit better. That's all.
Okay. So the conservation's got a couple as well. Any concerns with any of what they're proposing?
Ms. Hebert, is the conservation still the old conservation list that we looked at a week or 2 ago that you sent us? Because I didn't see any updates to them.
Yeah, I got an update today, and I didn't know if I'm not sure how it ended up on my desk. So let me tell you what I have here, which I think was their agenda. Yeah. The Hamlin Street for DPW that we held off on the last time. But now I think we've approved that. So that is on here, the DPW Hamlin Street.
Ms. Hebert, did you just say Hamlin Street?
Yeah.
Hamlin Street.
We did not approve anything for Hamlin Street.
Okay, so this was on the last one. This is back on here again, Hamlin Street. The notice of intent for the Acushnet DPW for the property located on Hamlin Street. Proposes to dig a trench and lay a pipe with catch basins and manholes to relieve drainage issues on Hamlin Street within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by Bob Rogers of GAF Engineering, Inc. Plan name is Town of Acushnet DPW Street Improvement Project Hamlin Street, dated October 24th, 2019. So that one is on here.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is another one of those projects that never came in front of the Board of Selectmen, so that we're aware of what we're doing, when we're doing it, why we're doing it.
Is this related to the bridge work?
No,
No.
it's not.
So, and Mr. Chairman, out of that road material, that pavement article for the $250,000 that we've already blown, $160,000 plus dollars, there's been better than $12,000 in engineering fees already spent on Hamlin Street drainage, which is a big concern for myself as well. I don't know what we're doing there, why we're there. I don't believe Mr. DeRoche knows what we're doing, why we're there. You don't. And over this time, and we've blown $12,000 in engineering fees. And so I used to deliver newspapers down Hamlin Street when I was 13 years old, and that's been country drainage, kind of like Mendel Road, all these years. And now all of a sudden we've blown $12,000, $13,000 on engineering fees to put in storm drains for what reason, I don't understand. So this is something that I believe Mr. Menard should have came in front of the board and said, we're looking to do this for these reasons. Does the board have a problem with us going out there, and what's the expense, and what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how much it's going to cost to do it, and bring that in front of the board, and the board gives it a blessing or not blessing to be spending this kind of money. So I'm just I'm becoming a little upset that the Board of Selectmen have no idea what the hell's going on in the town of Acushnet anymore. And I would like Mr. Menard to come before the board, before he's going in front of these committees for approval to keep doing things, and say, this is the reason why we're doing it. Do you approve of it? And let the Board of Selectmen give it its blessing. We've never been objective in the past that I can remember of doing certain projects, but why we're allowing tens and twenties of thousands of dollars to be spent on things that we have no idea what we're doing, it's beyond me. I don't understand it.
So should we agreed with the point about what projects we're lining up and how we're doing the projects and our understanding them. But so we have two separate but related. I mean, should we be having a hearing and having an engineer representing the town at a hearing that we're not sure we're going to approve? I don't want to. I don't think we should be limiting hearings that Conservation Committee is having on any topic. If they want to have a hearing, we shouldn't, if we're comfortable with COVID-19 precautions, we shouldn't be trying to control the hearings they're having. That said, to the extent the hearing is related to a project that the Department of Public Works wants to spend money on, and we know nothing at all about that project, and we've got an engineer representing us, the Board of Selectmen and the town, in front of the Conservation Committee, at that hearing, why do we want to do that if we don't know anything about it? So
correct.
I think we need to support the hearings that the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals want to have, if they can do them safely. But I think we need a conversation with the Department of Public Works about whether we want to proceed with that project on Hamlin Street without the Board of Selectmen understanding what that project is. So
I agree 100%, Mr. Chairman. So I'll make a motion to strike the DPW off the Conservation's agenda and move forward with the rest of their agenda.
And
second, Mr. DeRoche?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I want to get got to go back and get another motion on the ZBA hearing with regard to the with gas station proposal. We never voted that. We moved on.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make it easy. I've got it right here. I'll make a motion to approve the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on July 28, 2020 at 6:30 for case number 2020.07.28A.
Mr. DeRoche, second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Selectmen announcements.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to thank you for your time, your 3 years of service. I know Mr. Roche did that on town meeting floor. This being your last meeting, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time and efforts that you put forward for the taxpayers and residents of the town of Acushnet. I know that you're doing a small write-in campaign because you have an interest in taking up the moderator on the town ballot. That is this Saturday's election from, I believe it's 10 to 2, Ms. Hebert?
Yep.
So for everybody out there that's going to watch us, Mr. Cabral is doing a write-in for the moderator.
I'm not sure we can do that, but
So thank you.
thank you, but I'm not sure we can do that here. But
So thank you,
okay.
thank you for your service, Mr. Cabral.
Thank you, Mr. Gasper.
And you've spent numerous years on the finance committee and always been engaged with the town and always tried to do your best to have the best interests of the taxpayers and the residents of the town. So I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, and kudos, Chairman Cabral. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure this 1 year that we've, well, actually 14 months now because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
That we've
I might be
had
I might be the longest serving one-term selectman in the history of the town. I don't know.
You may be.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what I'm going to be telling people.
Could be.
But just final comment. This has been a lot of fun, and there's, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of work. I mean, this position takes a lot of attention, and I just don't have the time to give it the attention that it deserves. And I think the two of you understand what being a selectman in the town of Acushnet can involve. And coming in the first year, I had it, and then work changed dramatically for me, and I just got to focus on I'm still in my office. I got to focus on this and not this. So it's been very rewarding. There are things I really regret walking away from. There are things that I leave unfinished. So counting on you to get the job done, and Mr. Wonar to get the job done. But we'll hope to remain involved in public service in Acushnet, and been active in this community for a long time. And Ms. Hebert, it's been great working with you. It really has. And good luck to you. I'm going to go by tomorrow. I got a couple of things to sign. I'll drop off my keys, so you can lock me out of the building, I guess. And but it's been a lot of fun. It's been an adventure. I've learned a lot, and I may be back one day. I'll retire. I may be back. Who knows? So,
Mr. Chairman, at any point you have Selectman DeRose, my phone number, Ms. Hebert's phone number. If you ever appeals to you that you'd like to send us a letter or give any one of us a phone call and saying these are some of the things that I would have liked to see done, we could take it under advisement and try to move that forward. So
you'll believe me, you'll hear from me.
As long as it fits in the alignment of what the current Board of Selectmen want.
Okay. All right. So I don't really care when the next selectmen's meeting is, but let me tell you anyway. It's Tuesday, June 30th at 5 p.m. You're apparently going to be doing school MSBA. That must be the roof project, right?
That's correct.
All right. So any further business? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, and I'll second.
And I'll third. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Night now.